What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, we're back in Space Engineers, and today we're taking a look at the yellow team carrier, the Armourer. So you guys will remember the Blacksmith from a couple of weeks ago, part of the red team, that team faction thing I've been building up with the rapier and the broadsword and so on. And I decided, well of course we got to do a yellow version. So what we're going to do is dive in, I'll show you a bit about what I've done, what I've changed with this one to make it hopefully interesting, show you a couple of the flaws because it definitely ain't perfect, and then we'll have a big fight at the end where I go and see whether or not the yellow team's carrier can actually man up and face up against the red team's carrier, and I suspect probably not, but we'll have a look. So first up, let's have a look around, well initially the outside of this ship and what makes this one different to that red team carrier. So you'll remember the Blacksmith had that cool rear engine that was designed to twist around and move when it entered atmosphere so that you didn't need quite so many thrusters. And then it had the rapiers lining the sides so that they looked kind of cool, all really compact. But that had a bit of a flaw because of course, while they can launch out of those sides really cleanly, getting them back in there again is a bit of a problem for some ships that can't hover. And so the first thing I wanted to do was try and solve that problem. So if we come around to the front of the ship here, you can kind of see how, with the aid of a few rotors, which I know is always dangerous, but hey, the Blacksmith had rotors as well, so whatever, we've managed to get a few set up so that they sit in this position for landing. But of course, as you can probably imagine, are all mounted on a rotor down here so that they can move upwards into that normal horizontal taking off position whenever needed. So if I jump back to my guy inside, move him into the seat, let me just give you a demonstration of what all that looks like in action, because it's kind of cool looking and has worked out quite nicely. I mean, if nothing else, it's practical from the perspective that these are all boardable and you can actually get into the cockpits from the ground quite happily, quite easily. But of course, as soon as they're up in the upright position, they're much further off the ground. So in this position, if I just hit one, they could probably move a bit quicker than this. I went cautious with it because, yeah, rotors, clang, all that stuff. You know the deal. So I went a bit cautious with it, but in the end, it looks cool. The shadows kind of they cast I really like. And then as they come down, boom, into that takeoff position with 8 of them. So 2 less than the Blacksmith has, but all sitting in kind of a more practical layout in which they can actually launch and land from. Now it does have one slight issue, and that is if you go too fast with these and the rotor safety lock engages, much like with the Blacksmith, some dodgy stuff happens. So the other main feature of the Blacksmith was that engine on the back, the kind of one that twisted around and meant that you could go in and out of atmosphere. And I didn't want to just repeat that idea here, that seemed kind of dull. So instead, I tried to think a bit about what engines are good where. So for example, on the front and the back here, we've got atmospheric, ion and hydrogen, because kind of makes sense. Depending on what environment you're in, you might need different ones. And on the bar, of course, we've got the ability to go and turn certain ones off depending on what you're doing. But then if you come down to the bottom, you'll see the configuration changes a bit. There's a lot more atmospheric all of a sudden. And of course, that's geared purely towards being in atmosphere, trying to hold yourself up, especially when you're down really low where the gravity is at its worst and your ion engines are useless. Then on the back, obviously tons and tons, but where it changes a bit is on the top. Top is only ion thrusters. As soon as you're in gravity, you don't need to push yourself down. The gravity is going to do a lot of that work for you, especially if you're pointing down and using the rear engines to get into the gravity in the first place. And then on the sides, minimal amounts of pretty much all of them. Mostly ion, because again, that's where your big maneuverability is going to kind of be needed. As soon as you're down in atmosphere, you're going to be trying to keep this thing relatively level anyway, because you want to be using your big engines on the bottom. And so I figure the strafing thrusters become a bit less important. But that's enough of me yabbing about this. Let's have a quick tour of what the insides are like. Having shown a little bit of the outsides, it's kind of ugly, but then at the same time, I'm kind of pleased with how I managed to greeble it to make it look a bit less ugly. Like the overall shape does also kind of match the yellow team shape a bit, so it's not bad. It just, yeah, it ended up a bit fat and a bit of a funny shape to really turn out that pretty, no matter what I did with kind of drawing shapes around thrusters and so on to try and make it look a bit cooler. But if we come through the front here, behind all of this stuff is of course our bridge where my guy is. I mean, down here, quite pleased with the interior of this. I think it doesn't look bad given it's quite small, and of course it's a large ship, so your detail's a bit limited. We've got either side, we've got the airlocks that take us out to those hangar bays, so you can see those up in position there, and of course a nice little airlock to get through that you can see through and see what's going on. There's a little area up there that's not particularly necessary, but again, why not make use of the height? And then finally, if I go into spectator, we can jump downstairs And down here, through this sort of extra set of airlocks, so we've got this glass room is actually an airlock room as well, takes us down and into where the crew quarters are and where our medical bay is. Which, yeah, why not make it look a little bit more homely, a little bit more ship-like with a little bit of those little bits and bobs, especially to match the Blacksmith. So that's kind of about it for her looks and her ethos. And so the final thing left for us to do is to jump into this seat, and over there some careless man has left a pirate-owned blacksmith. So let's go and have a little fun with it. And one of the first things I noticed that I didn't expect, but is just a lovely and kind of interesting feature, is when you've got the glaives up in the upright position, you can actually use their Gatling guns. So we do have a bit of extra forward firepower, but nothing like as many turrets. I think we've got 6 on this, and the Blacksmith has got 10, maybe 12. So it's a little uneven. We've also apparently got a bit of damage. I'm not sure that's quite so damaged as you're suggesting. We'll have to see about that. Anyway, we'll also have to go and see about the Blacksmith that's been carelessly left over there. Now, one thing you do have to keep in mind with this is if you reach the speed of the rotor locks, so the point at which those rotors on the front lock up, things go a bit wonky. Basically, it just locks all those rotors. There's a sudden jolt as it does so, and it tends to tear those rotors apart. It tends to tear everything off the front. So you kind of got to be a bit careful. Maybe run with dampers off. You know, let yourself fly in gently. And what we're going to do is basically go in and park ourselves next to the Blacksmith and see how it works out. So let's get the dampers on. We do have a lot more like forward-facing firepower than it does, and in come the rockets. We also have a much bigger weakness in the form of, on the front of us is a lot of engines. We're the ones that are moving, and we're also the ones that have got all of our fighters in that position. So I'm going to try and bring around like this to keep the front on target, keep those rockets working. They're already out. We got any Gatlings? Don't think we got any Gatling. Oh, we've got some Gatlings left to aid with our missiles. And at the moment, how's he looking? Oh, the devastation to the front of this is real. Let's bring out the spectator cam and get a proper view on this fight. It looks like most of the rockets from the Armourer are either not shooting at the right place, don't have targets, or are taken out completely. It looks like we've got a couple of turrets left on the bottom, couple left on the top I don't think have line of fire. Let's see if we can bring the ones on the top up. Oh, the one actually is on the bottom, isn't it? I keep forgetting that this is a bit weird in that it's actually longer on the bottom in some ways than it is on the top. Ooh, more turrets into bear. I still feel like the winner here is going to be... Actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the small size of the Blacksmith is actually hurting it here. Because it doesn't seem to be shooting back with much, except for this turret here, which is mysteriously shooting even though it's no longer connected to anything. That's quite impressive. Attacks from beyond the grave. But I do think otherwise... Let's see, if I get out of this seat and delete our offending turret that is managing to do things that do not exist, is there any return fire from the Blacksmith? Does it have anything left? It's got a turret on the base, and I know there's one on this side. No, even the one on this side got taken out on our first pass. Well then, unexpectedly, and with the lesser armament, the Armourer comes out on top in space. That I did not expect, and the damage is... that's pretty severe. The Blacksmith's not walking out of that. Rear engine is almost certainly no longer even connected. So the final thing is to try that same trick, but in atmosphere, just to prove that these both do fly in atmosphere, but also because it's kind of fun, and it's even more fun when they suddenly fall out of the sky when you hit them. Blacksmith is definitely the better looking one. And for this particular test, I haven't got any of the fighters on board. I'd love to be able to say, hey, why don't we load them up and get loads of people in and do like a big fighter test? But in reality, every time I've tried that, the game just crashes constantly. Something to do with collisions, which inevitably happen with a bunch of fast-moving ships, and yeah, you just get mad crashing. Now, hopefully we'll be coming into range pretty damn soon. That looks really close. I'm surprised we're not already opened up. It's definitely owned by the pirates. Oh, here we go. Funny how little of the streaks you see when you're down on the planet. How long does it take before one of these is falling out of the sky? Now this one's engines downwards are all on the back, which is probably beneficial, but maybe I should be making use of that to come down underneath, do what damage I can from below. Oh, I may have made a mistake. She's trying to counter. Let's beef up that rear engine. Up. shot into the bottom. It's not actually taking out the thrusters though. Doesn't look like the Armourer's got enough missiles on the bottom to really stop this either. There are some, but clearly not enough. I'm also going to need to go in here and kill this main thrust back down again, because otherwise we're going to fly past him at crazy speeds. Oh! And the killing blow. Damn. Okay, so the definite weakness with the Blacksmith is the cockpit being like right at the front on the top. You want to come down and shoot them in the engines and so on. And in fact on this, the engines are barely being hit. I think it might be another win for the Armourer at this rate. The Armourer's cockpit's not even close to being damaged. The engines are still holding strong. The Blacksmith is still flying, but I doubt this is going to fly for much longer. We do still have a backup cockpit. Maybe I can go and jump in that for the last fight. Fly her sideways just for weirdness. Come on, we need to go forwards. Oh, fly. Ah, yes. Going forwards is a little bit more difficult than I expected. Oh, the controls are the wrong way around. Oh! It's out of the sky. That's it. Actually, the Blacksmith comes through victorious. Are we... No! We're coming down as well! They've taken out too many of our bottom thrusters. We're both coming down together in a beautiful and horrid explosion. Oh, the Blacksmith's going to flip itself over because of the rear thruster as well. And then just pound each other. So, I don't know who won that one. That looks like an equally failed draw. Don't know what got taken out on this to bring it out of the sky so quickly. Is the hydrogen down? I suspect the hydrogen tanks, the link to the hydrogen tanks got taken out. And that was enough. Either way, there you go folks. Hope you enjoyed that one. Little bit of destruction to end the video. I don't normally do enough of this, I think. More blowing up will be featured in future. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button. It really does help me out. Gives that video just a great start in life. Maybe I can introduce more people to Space Engineers and some of the awesome stuff you can do in it. So thank you very much, guys. Thanks for your support. And if you enjoyed this one, of course, stay tuned for more. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll catch you soon.